Ready to go again? I'm ready to go again. We're all ready to go again, yes? I'll just wait until the chatter subsides then. All right, so we're going to carry on here. So in advance of any questions that I might ask, and I intend to do so, I want to share a pretty simple fact with all of you. The wastewater treatment plant will be the major capital project for the next term. It isn't optional and it isn't discretionary. Current council has already put $2 million into the design and engineer work, which is now underway. Once that's done, possibly by spring of 2023, the town will be in a position to go to tender, and the construction phase is estimated to take approximately 2.5 years. Current cost estimates are around $35 million, but we can expect that that number is probably going to grow by the time that project is ready. As it stands right now, the project, I understand, will be funded through reserves and long-term debt financed through Infrastructure Ontario. Well, hopefully some other grant monies might be found, and I know that the mayor has been working hard lobbying our infrastructure minister on that front. But if not, the debt financing that this town is going to assume will essentially cap out our borrowing capacity. Okay? So I just, for me, I'm more of a numbers guy. I need to understand the numbers. So, number one project moving forward next term of council, biggest expense is water treatment plant. And the cost of doing so is basically going to put the town at a limit from a borrowing capacity standpoint. And Kerry, I don't expect you to jump in here, but we're under some pretty strict rules and regulations about where those caps and limits exist, right? All of this really means that any new projects that are being considered or proposed, right? There's a lot of conversation about recreation, infrastructure, roads, all those sorts of things. All of that really means that any new projects being considered or proposed, like covered swimming pools, YMCA, new park amenities, will have to be funded through sources other than borrowing. Development charges are always possible for growth-related expenses, but the rules around those revenues or those reserves are quite restrictive. So that essentially leaves grants, never guaranteed, but we hope the grants are always available, but that essentially leaves grants, benevolent donors, like developers, or taxes. To put it into perspective, a 1% change up or down to the 2022 tax rate equals about $86,000 or $87,000, okay? So 1% tax rate change up or down, about $87,000. So with that said, I'm going to move over to the side here, but my first question is going to be to you, Walter. Unfortunately, we don't have a microphone to be able to slide around, so as these questions are posed, I will ask that either you stand. I don't know, it's in the absence of a microphone, I have typically a loud voice, but carry through or no? Microphone? So the first question, Walter, is to you. As someone with 20 plus years of council experience, you're one of several that have mentioned things like a covered pool. So I want to understand, how do you expect we're going to pay for something like that?
Well, we're not going to get a covered pool tomorrow. It takes time to get one. And the way we can get a covered pool, first of all, we're not quite, we're at the limit that council has set. There is still ability to raise the limit, and council has that ability, but we're not looking at borrowing money. To get a covered pool into place, there's been some conversations already with the Treasury Minister and with our MPP, looking to get grant money and get money from the province. Again, like you said, it's not guaranteed, but at least we're starting a conversation towards getting something like a covered pool and getting funding from that. The other thing that we have in our thought process is the YMCA being brought up here. Now, if we can get the Y to come up here, they also have, and have worked with other municipalities and where they have been able to get corporate money for themselves as well as for the municipalities that they work in. Better than what we can do. They have access to the corporate headquarters that we don't. And so they have worked out agreements with those municipalities. So we're looking at every option we can. As a 23-year veteran, that's what I would do, along with, I hope, the rest of the council members, to see if we can get that covered pool into place.
Thanks, Walter. Alethia, I have basically the same question for you. I mean, you made the comment that my blue sky idea would be to have a fully functional recreational facility with year-round swimming, where we're able to have indoor facilities. The same question. How do you believe or expect we might fund or pay for something like that?
Perfect, great question. And similar to Walter's response, it would be an opportunity to revisit. I understand that council several years ago investigated the option of the YMCA. So this would be an opportunity to revisit those conversations, look at the cost impacts, and see what the best option would be. There's still the option to look at covering the current facility, CDRC, what those costs would look like, to see what the best option would be. So working with members of council, working with community stakeholders to be able to get the best bang for our buck and make sure that we're not impacting the residents further with additional tax benefits.
Yeah, I appreciate your reply, thank you. My next question, Len, I'm going to move on to you if I may. You, along with several others, have mentioned the need to expand local transportation. I know that the town has undertaken several cost studies on this, and none that I saw, frankly, look very pretty. How do you expect being able to fund something like transportation is the first question to you. And I'd also like you to expand on your comments that the town is taking a backseat to the priorities of the corporation. If I can ask you to address those two things kindly.
Which one do you want me to address first?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but just as a reminder, if I can ask replies, try and keep it within a minute and a half time.
Okay. There are two pockets of money from the gas tax, provincial gas tax. One pocket of money will fund transit, but it will not fund a pilot project. Orangeville has two buses that are sitting idle right now and are unutilized. If we could lease one of those buses, that would be considered an expansion of an existing program and not a pilot project. We would then be able to use the funds within that tax pocket of money to fund that program. The other question was about, I'm sorry, just real quick, just in general.
Just be a little more specific about it. You made a comment that the town is taking a backseat to the priorities of the corporation, and I'd like to understand better what you mean by that.
I think the past 4 years of council have been so focused on trying to dig themselves a new water treatment plant and find funding to put together something in the terms of recreation. But at the end of the day, they've been so worried on money, they forgot that there are people in this community as well. An example I would give would be the decision to get rid of the Shelburne police. And I'll be full disclosure, I have an uncle who's an OPP officer. But an example of that would be this past summer I sat in a funeral procession for over 10 minutes trying to get the funeral procession out of the funeral parking lot. It's a small thing, but Shelburne police would have been there to stop the traffic free of charge, and they would have had another vehicle up at the cemetery with lights flashing and an officer saluting, and that was included. The loss of the Shelburne police visiting the high school is another, financial decision that impacted this community not in a positive way. So those
Sorry, Len, but you do recognize that it isn't the police decision about not being in high schools today. That has nothing to do with any police decision.
No, but the decision to have an additional RSO officer in the school would be an extra cost to the community. If we decided to have an RSO officer at the school, we would have to pay for it, whereas...
I'll just correct you and tell you that there's no extra cost to have an officer in our schools, just so you understand that. No extra cost to do that.
I'd like to see the numbers myself, personally.
Okay?
Okay, I know your background as well. At the end of the day, there's numbers that should have been counted in the decision that weren't.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. I appreciate your comments on it. Jim Bates, I'm going to ask you, you mentioned publicly, just in case, I've got all the articles behind me. You mentioned publicly about the focus you bring to keeping taxes low and under control. So given what I stated earlier about the town's current infrastructure expenditures, budget, financial outlook, I'm assuming that you're familiar with the town's budget?
I wasn't familiar that they were that far into that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering then, aside from your knowledge of the town budget currently, are there any proposals that you might have that you think about that might better control taxation today?
Well, obviously better spending or not spending. You gotta run tighter budget. I can't believe it's that far out of whack, to be honest with you. It's obviously taken some time to get it that bad. So people gotta be more accountable for what they're doing.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I made a point of just mentioning, what our expenditures are moving forward, what commitments the town has when, people talk about being able to do all sorts of different things. I know personally, there's a sign on my wall in my office that says, focus on 2 routes, one's going to escape. But I'm just curious if there was anything that you had initially where your resident of town gave you the opportunity to say, hey, here's some of the things that I see that might take some cost out of the system then.
Well, one thing is as far as street lights, there's a lot of people that I've talked, actually, there's a lot of street lights that are actually out that haven't been addressed. And solar lights would probably be a good savings. It may be a little costly up front, but it's certainly over the, 3 to 5 years, if that long, it's going to save quite a bit.
Yeah, I appreciate your reply. Thank you. Thanks very much. Sophia, if I might call on you, if I may. There's a statement that you made that says, I represent the population of diversity in our community, and I want everyone in Shelburne to know that they have a voice. A lot of work has been done by the former councillors, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. Are you able to indicate or articulate what more you feel needs to be done and why?
So Mike, when I made that statement, I indicated, like I said, I moved here 9 years ago, and infrastructure has changed. When I did move here, and the new residents moved into this area, they were very taken back about the services that was available in Shelburne. So in regards to accessing services such as mental health supports. So I think that, for new residents moving into the area, that's very important for our new residents to know what currently exists in our neighborhood. And we need to find innovative ways in communicating with the new residents in our community so they can reach the services that are available.
Fair enough. Thanks very much. Lindsay, when you campaigned 4 years ago, and I think I heard you say the same thing this evening, you stated that you'll only make one promise: to be the best counselor I can by listening to your needs, and concerns and making decisions based on what is best for our community. I'd like to know if you can tell me about any decisions, in your opinion, that council made that you didn't agree with or didn't feel were in the best interest of this community, and why?
Yes. Well, I'm sure I know I've made some decisions I didn't agree with myself per se. But I don't make decisions for myself. I make decisions for everyone else. So I have to take the information that's given to me and I have to process it and I have to believe that it is in its entirety, and then I have to look at, you know, who it affects. And so there are certain decisions for example, disbanding the police, where it was the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my entire life. And I knew it would affect people on both sides. So, with that said, I was given information, I processed information, and I had to make the decision for 10,000 people, not just what Lindsay Wegener wanted. It's not easy when you're sitting here and you have to, make these decisions, but they are necessary and someone has to make them. So, that would be my one biggest decision that I wish maybe would have been different.
Well, look, you made a claim about being honest, and you're absolutely honest. So,
Thank you.
Lynda, the matter of downtown revitalization has been cited by you as a significant priority. You are currently a member of the BIA. I think it's a council appointed member of the BIA. I happen to be former chair of the EDC, so I probably have a, more than most familiarity with the town, BIA, etc. I'm somewhat familiar with the challenges of dealing with smaller business owners, the costs, and in a lot of instances, absent landlords. What do you believe is the best strategy to downtown revitalization? What does that look like to you, if I can ask?
Well, as it turns out, on Monday night, council approved our CIP plan, which is our community improvement plan. This includes, among other areas, specifically the downtown area. It will provide facade improvement opportunities for building owners to deal with heritage features for each building. We'll also deal with a lot of other issues like accessibility into the older buildings by providing funding for that. And in the Heritage Committee, which I am chair of, we are involved with doing a lot of murals in the downtown. We just put one up now in Fiddle Park, in Jack Downing Park, and we continue to do a lot of that, or we will be doing a lot of that as we go along in the next little while. So our focus is on improving everything in the downtown, because if you've noticed, before the pandemic, there was a lot of businesses that started to close, and now after the pandemic we end up having more businesses, and so we've got a lot of opportunity now to continue enhancing and improving the downtown and making it even better than it is now.
I'm just curious, because I know that, there have been earlier programs, I don't recall whether the financing programs, grant programs, et cetera, for building owners, building and or business owners uptown to, revitalize, redo front facades and things, but very few, if any, do I recall, that actually took advantage of those programs. Do you think it'll be different this time around, or why?
Yes, I think it will be different, because I know from my career in real estate that there's been a lot of changes in new owners downtown, and some of these people have already started to do work in the buildings, and there's still others that are there. But I think with more promotion of the new programs that are available and work with the BIA, which I sit on, we will be able to make sure that we get that message out to all store owners and owners of buildings, so we can get that done.
Fair enough. Appreciate the reply. And just so you know, the questions that I ask are unknown to the candidates this evening.
Will I be able to respond to that?
Yeah, by all means. please, by all means.
So, I own a building right in the middle of Main Street, and we were offered a $300 facade improvement, which basically doesn't even touch the amount of work that would go to putting in the planning to satisfy the town's needs. Okay, this is an example of what I was talking about, where the priorities of the community and the priorities of the town are not in sync. Why not offer that $300? We have so many stores that have steps that don't have ramps. We have it, okay? And why not convert that $300 offer into an offer to the landlords and the property owners to set the priority to get accessibility before, lipstick?
So then I would say it certainly may be a suggestion. I'm not sure what monies are being made available. But to you, you're saying anything currently is of no interest to you as a landlord. The
$300, the amount of paperwork and bureaucracy to get a lousy $300 for a facade. I spent $10,000 in the front of my property this year retiling it. It's a drop in the bucket. A ramp is $400 or $500.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments, and I don't want to belabor the whole topic, but Lynda, if you had something to add to that, you're welcome to do so. Yeah, by all means.
As I was saying, this past Monday, we implemented the CIP program. That also includes funding for accessibility for every building which wishes to apply. I did say that, but I guess Mr. Guchardi didn't hear that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mike,
Yeah.
I was going to say, we're going to start audience questions at 8:20, and you're going to wrap this up at 9. There's really not going to be a lot of time for audience questions.
I'm just about through, but I appreciate the comment. Okay. Shane, question for you. I believe that you made the statement that you bring more fiscal responsibility to the position of deputy mayor than you suggest incumbent Steve Anderson may. Why do you believe that, or what examples might you provide to validate that claim?
So I'll try to give maybe 3 examples. Again, this past term of council means that we've faced basically 4 budget reviews. And pretty much at every one of those reviews, when we're going through and looking at where we can reduce so that we can meet tax targets, the incumbent always comes with increases. So while we're trying to decrease, we end up having to face larger increases, making it much more difficult. The second item would be, for example, again, the incumbent supported and moved forward a motion for a Shelburne sign to be put down in the park right across from the town hall. The cost of this came at initially thousands and then into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, benefit-wise, we were able to stop that motion moving forward, but still it shows fiscal irresponsibility.
Appreciate the comments. Deputy Mayor Anderson, anything in reply to that, or response?
Please, thank you. Well, I appreciate Councillor Hall's comments, but I think they have to be based in the air of reality. So he seemed to be very vague. You citing examples, I thought you had 3, but the first one seemed very vague. I'm not sure what you're talking about when you say increases. What particular increases did I come with during the budget?
Well, again, anybody is more than capable of going back to the YouTube videos.
No, but you came here prepared, and you're making allegations. And so what I'm saying is, if you're going to make allegations to the people about my overspending or increasing, what examples are you talking about?
The actual fact of the increases that you made on the various, again, council initiatives such as your DIA or DEI increases, your other areas of increases that we initially came forward with, looking at close to a $50,000 reduction that you then took and put into an increase.
That seems very abstract. So if what you're saying is investments in diversity and inclusion so that we can have a DEI committee is a waste of taxpayers' money, then I guess that's your opinion. But at the end of the day, what is interesting is when we made that decision as a council to invest in DEI, to have a budget for DEI, to put on programs like we saw just last Friday at Jack Downey Park when we had the Indigenous ceremony of the park, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, which you attended, by the way. That was voted upon and supported unanimously by council.
What about the sign?
I'll address the sign, thank you. So what Councilor Hall is referring to is myself, Walter, Councilor Walter, and the mayor went to Ottawa to attend what they refer to as AMO meetings, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, where we go and we bring back ideas back to Shelburne and to the county itself as to what we can do to improve our community. So we were out one afternoon and we saw, if you've gone to Ottawa, and these are in many other communities, you know, the wooden sign that says Ottawa or Collingwood, etc. And so what we've noticed is in many of these communities, that has become a tourist attraction. People will stop, they'll take pictures, etc. Now, all we simply said was this could be something that we could potentially install or utilize. This wasn't a demand, and we decided as a council, when we brought it forward, that you're right, the cost was not something that we could absorb, and we went away from that. So,
You know, there's nothing wrong with good, healthy.
So, if I may,
Shane, I'm just gonna let you, real quick, you just want to finish off, Steve, I appreciate the.
So again, maybe to clarify, first year of the DEI committee, they did not spend the overall.
Shane, could you come to the mic,
Yes, certainly.
please? Thank you.
So with regards to the first year of the DEI committee, the committee did not spend any of the funds, basically. So there was a large amount of carryover. So instead of just looking at what the actual need of the committee and the spend of the committee was, it was let's give them more again. So instead of, again, looking at what they spent, what they already had in reserves, they went ahead and increased and increased and increased. Now the third item, if I may, the third item actually happened just yesterday. So the third example would be the fact that, again, there was a motion put forward for AstroTurf to go into a temporary location, which again, the deputy mayor brought forward. That final location has not been determined. The Parks and Rec master plan has not been completed and rolled out. So any investment into something that would be temporary is just not proper business practice.
Fair enough. Look, I appreciate the time on this.
no, I have to address the last point, just very quickly. I have to address the point. The report that was brought forward and supported by the majority of council yesterday was to get a cost assessment to see what it would be to implement the AstroTurf. Why? Because we have a cricket team, two in fact. The sport is growing exponentially. They're playing on a field. The area that they're playing is not safe. We heard from members of the cricket club to say that this would assist them in playing the game safely. So all I simply did was to ask staff to come back with a cost assessment. That was it. Thank you.
You got 30 seconds, we're gonna wrap this up.
Again, just to clarify, in the long-term plan for the town, that cricket field is addressed in 2024, not 2023.
Fair enough. I appreciate the Kyle Fegan. The right to peaceful protest is protected under our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but I believe I've read somewhere publicly where the organizer of the Freedom Rallies has admitted that he recognizes the disruption to town businesses and the immediate surrounding residential areas. I understand the organizers have a good working relationship with the OPP, and the OPP would be limited in their capacity to enforcing or ensuring public safety. Anything in addition, I expect, falls within the purview of the town's bylaws. Is there anything that the town is able to do or is doing? And do you believe the council is active fast enough in taking any actions that they might?
Thank you for that. To be perfectly honest with you, the problem that, as far as enforcement goes, is the fact that our bylaws were outdated. So the bylaws as they stood, unfortunately, the officers could not enact and react to them. As far as what has the town done, actually just last night, we reviewed our bylaws and we have adjusted those accordingly. just last night to allow more bylaw enforcement as well as OPP enforcement. Now, if I may also address the fact that you say, bring up the point of charter of rights. It's a very difficult conversation. We all know about the protests that are going on. We know that the protests are, in some cases, very disruptive. But we as council have to be very, very careful on decisions that we make, that we are not pigeonholing anybody. We have to allow freedom of expression while at the same time protecting the community. And it's a very fine balancing act, so we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we walk that fine line.
Fair enough, appreciate the reply. Vincent, if I may call on you, the matter of taxation is always a topic, including the burden or the ratio between residential and commercial or industrial tax base. So, I mean, as everybody knows, we've got considerable commercial development now happening in the East End. We've got more residential planned in the West End. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts or opportunities on what the next council might do to look at lessening the burden of taxation on residents.
Thank you for the question. I will begin by saying I don't consider myself as a tax expert or as an expert in politics, so to speak. However, I believe anything that we are able to put forward that can lighten or lessen additional tax burden on taxpayer is something that we should, and I would be prepared to look at if I'm answering your question or
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I don't intend to make this an unfair question. I'm just wondering if you have any, I mean, the issue of residential tax is something that permeates a lot of conversation.
Right.
I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on opportunity for
yeah, well,
development, economic growth.
Yeah, well, one of my concern is the fact that whatever council or the town imposes, or we're looking at new idea for the community, for the development and the advancement, I don't believe that the increasing of tax should be something that we rush to right away. I believe that we should be creative and constructive in coming up with different ideas and plans where we can generate funds without using tax at all times.
Fair enough. I appreciate that it's probably a tough question to answer, but yeah, by all means, Randy. Sure.
So the current tax base in Shelburne is $12 million. The provincial average for taxes for residentials is 70%. Shelburne is being taxed at 85% residential. Unfortunately, we're not attracting enough industries to Shelburne to offset those taxes. KTH, I can't remember the exact number, like 1.1 million in taxes a year. That's a substantial increase in our tax base. This is what we should be focused on. I know the province dictates our growth, but we need to make this a balanced growth. We need to attract more industries, we're gonna get more jobs, we're gonna get more amenities, and companies like KTH and Blue Water Plastic, they invest so much into this community. That new park that we have there was actually funded 100% by KTH. These are the things that these organizations do for the community.
So let me ask you, Randy, if I may. One of the things that you had said was no one on council is actively looking for companies to come in and set up shop in Shelburne. What leads you to make a statement like that?
It's, I find everything's reactive and not proactive. And I keep hearing a lot of things about different businesses coming to Shelburne, but then I see all these industries going to Dundalk. And it blows my mind why they're going to Dundalk and not setting up shop in Shelburne. I've heard, and again, just from different meetings, that there was a few companies looking at setting up shop in Shelburne, and then, what was it, the pit? The stone pit, I can't remember what it's called, the gravel pit. They were looking at putting that in Shelburne, and now that's being moved up to Dundalk. Businesses like that, even though it's going to be substantially out of the way and not impeding anybody's, impeding anybody in Shelburne, I feel like we need to look at some of these things and look at some of these companies coming to Shelburne so we can, again, get that tax base on them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Is there any member of council that would like to respond to whether or not or have been actively pursuing economic, Walter, by all means?
First of all, we don't have any land for any business to come into town right now. That is one of the issues we have. If we have industrial land, and that's one of the things we have to promote, and what I'm promoting is for additional land to be brought into the town, so that we can have industrial land, so we can attract industries into town. But right now, right at this moment, all of our industrial land has been sold, not necessarily built on, because that's up to the people who own it, but it's all been sold, so there is no available industrial land. Yes, we have some commercial, there's a phase 2 at the commercial plaza yet to be built, but even that, we need more commercial land. That is what will take the taxes off the residential base and lower them and help out. We need them, we know we need them, that's what we're moving on, if, again, elected into the next council.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah.
So again, as the councillors alluded to, we don't own the land. So it's extremely difficult to sometimes do that drop. But the other big pressure that we're up against that we don't have an opportunity with is we can't service the land as it is. So that is why, again, the biggest infrastructure item that we have is going to be that sewage treatment plant. As I said, we're at the build-out. We don't have any more capacity. Even if, for example, KTH was to want to expand, it's going to be very, very limited based on what we have remaining.
Fair enough, I appreciate that. Look, the reason why I ask some of these questions is just that, there are, in any election, promises can be made, but there's a reality of what the situation is, and I think it's just important and fair that people understand what both sides are, that you get the facts. So, one final question, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. So, and this is for you, Steve. Both you and I are members of the Police Service Board, and I think this is now knowledge at the council level, and I know that there was a meeting last week at the Glenbrook Elementary School on this matter. But there are concerns being expressed regarding trouble in our schools, and the now limited position that our own police might take as a result of the Upper Grand District School Board voting in April of this year to limited police presence, citing certain demographics of students feeling unsafe and or intimidated by a police presence. I'm simply wondering if you have any comment on the decision that the Upper Grand District School Board has taken, and or any opinions or thoughts on how these matters may or might have been better handled.
That's pretty loaded, Mike. All right.
Steve, I saved the tough ones for you, bud.
I could tell. Wow. Well, are there issues in the schools? Yes. But I want to first say that just to label it as such would go to undermine the tremendous work. I mean, when we talk about the high school, particularly in the community, it almost feels like it's all negative. There's a dark cloud over the school, and I think that takes away from the students and the staff that are doing excellent work at the high school, and I think their work gets overshadowed when we just focus on one particular issue, albeit important. Could things be done better at the high school to reduce the tension? Absolutely. One thing that the Upper Grand District School Board, I think, could do is to actually have a plan with respect to the high school. Right now, it is feeding how many different schools, it's overpopulated, and when you have an area where there's too much people filling the schools, you're inevitably going to get tension. There's no question about that. And we're seeing that spill over into our schools. I'm certainly proud of the efforts that I've made to be in the schools, understanding the issues. One of the things that I've done over the years is to be in there, handing out awards, speaking to the students, attending the graduation ceremonies, understanding that, in fact, one of the awards that I hand out is called the Stronger Together Award. And the reason why I hand out that award is because I want to incentivize students to move forward and figure out ways of how they can bring our community together, because in some instances, there's a struggle to do that. Now, in addressing the issue with respect to the police in the schools, well, first of all, I'm glad that you cleared up that that decision has nothing to do with us, But could it have been handled differently? Yes. I think that instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, there could have been a nuanced approach taken by the Upper Grand District School Board. There are people who react differently to the presence of police, but eliminating them entirely I don't think was a good idea. I think there are opportunities for the police to work with their students, build bridges, lower the barriers that exist, and really bring the community together. And I think we're starting to see some of the negative effects of them not being there.
Appreciate that. That wraps up the questions for me. I know there was a comment about keeping on time, but I also gave you a break that wasn't on the schedule. However, I hope that you found that just good engaging conversation, yes or no? Good. So we're now going to turn it loose to you. Audience members are welcome to ask questions. Again, I'm going to ask that you simply state your name and address and try and keep focused on short questions. And you're welcome to ask questions of any council member. So feel free, if you're in line, by all means. There's a microphone there in front of you, I believe. I believe that's turned on. If you can use the microphone. Behind you. You just want to be able to, you want the audience to hear the question that you may have.
My name is Len Guchardi, and I live at 251 Urban Street. I have a very simple question for all of the members in front of me. What is your stand on wrongdoing and corruption within community organizations? As I have been a victim of that, and there is one individual here who...
Sorry, I just want to get specific to your question. Your question is what exactly?
My question is, where does the politicians that I have in front of me stand on wrongdoing and corruption within community organizations? Because I have been a victim of that.
Well, look, I appreciate the question. I don't think I can probably answer on behalf of all candidate members. I don't think any candidate member up here is going to say that they side with any wrongful, sorry, as you phrase it, wrongful,
well, yes.
or corruption.
Yes.
If you believe that there's a case of corruption, I would suggest that you contact the appropriate authorities.
Well, so there is, and it is being supported by an individual who is running for council.
Yeah, I personally, you know what, you're welcome to ask a question. I find that a bit poppycock. We're not here to engage in name calling or finger pointing, etc. So the question specifically is, how do they feel about supporting corruption? I can answer that. I can answer that on behalf of all candidate members.
Supporting corruption. I'm asking about what is their stand on corruption within community organizations.
Anybody want to reply on a stance on corruption? Billings?
So, first of all, in community organizations, many of them are private, and it's not for members of council to get involved in the private affairs of what's happening in organizations. I wish my friend here would have been maybe a little bit more specific as he is talking about maybe members of council. I'm not sure who he's speaking of that is supporting that, but I think it's very clear that I don't think any member of council, I know not any member of council sides with corruption in their community. So it's unfortunate that you are going through the circumstances you are, but I think as Mike said, there might be different authorities that you should be seeking.
Excellent, Mike.
Yes, Michael, just want to let you know that I texted Wade Mills, the mayor, and told him you're not on schedule.
Yeah.
And you've talked too much tonight. And he said it's okay to run for an extra 30 minutes and he'll pay the rent.
Appreciate that.
And his response was, you know Mike always talks a lot. And I said, I'm here because of it. First off, my name is Bruce Lemke. Anybody that doesn't know me probably hasn't lived in Shelburne very long. I've been here since 1957. I look around the room here and I see Miss Peter, and I see Miss Silk, and Miss Sandra Lawrence. I think there's about 3 or 4 people that are older than I am that lived here, and I've been around a long time. My question tonight, and I'm a retired police officer with 40 years, my question tonight is going to be addressed to Mr. Anderson. The first question, it's a 2-part question, Stephen. The first question is, how important is the attendance of county council meetings and subcommittee meetings to you as a representative of the town of Shelburne?
Well, obviously they're important. If you're getting at over the 4 years that I've been serving as county councillor, whether I've missed some meetings, yes. I'm sure as you were probably searching and looking earlier today, you would have noticed that there are many other representatives across municipalities that have missed meetings for one reason or the other. But I would ask you to focus not on so much some missed meetings on some county meetings, or committees rather, but to focus on my track record overall with the county and advocating on behalf of Shelburne. So why don't we focus on that? So let me just mention some of the things that I've been doing on behalf of the Shelburne community at the
And I
council.
would like to address.
I answered the question.
I don't want anything else other than your.
I answered the question. I answered the
That's
question.
all.
I answered the question. Have I missed some
Yes, you
meetings?
have.
Yeah.
What is your attendance record?
25% of meetings.
Actually, I'll help you out with it. So in 2021, you attended 30% of government services meetings. 30%. I don't care what Moto does. I don't care what Moto does. I voted for you the last time, and I expected you to give 100%.
Okay.
Not done. Okay, my turn. Government services, you were late twice you were late. You didn't attend, and you attended 1 in 5 meetings. Not very good record, Mr. Anderson. 29% of DEI meetings you attended in 2022. 29%. I remember when a council in Shelburne got booted off for missing 2 council meetings. My concern is, what is your dedication
I'm
to
just gonna-
county council?
Okay, so look, folks, I'm gonna ask that you reply to the question.
Yeah, I'll reply to the question. The DEI committee that you're talking about, the 29% absence, what you're not aware of, and obviously people here that are looking at that, is I actually had a conversation with the CEO, and the concern about too many council members being at the meetings were making some of the individuals uncomfortable, and the free flow of conversations were not there. So we made the decision, or I made the decision in consultation with the CEO, that I would be one of the members from council that would not attend those meetings to allow the free flow discussion there. So that was the reason. Not that I wasn't involved still, because I still worked with the CEO on the committee and committee members, but that was the reason behind that.
So to reply to you, your answer is you didn't attend meetings because too many people were there and you didn't represent Shelburne.
No.
Thank you very much.
No, I didn't say that I represent Shelburne.
I'm just gonna, Steve, we're gonna continue.
That's fine.
Hi, Jeremy Glass, 648 Main Street. I have 2 quick questions, one for Shane Hall and one for Sophia. Shane Hall, you have weighed down on the indoor pool. I'm just wondering how good of an idea is it to think about, luxuries like an indoor pool when we have something like the waterworks development, the water treatment development coming up, but when we're already running such a thick deficit as it is in Shelburne. The other question for Sophia when you're done is, what are you going to do to ensure that these mental health services that you talk about stay open to the public if we do face another lockdown, which is very likely come this fall?
So we'll just handle one at a time.
So as far as the investment side, any large dollar investment at this point is extremely irresponsible of anybody on the panel to try to move forward when you're already looking at a $30+ million impact with regards to the waste treatment. So it's not feasible by any means, any shape, any form. Smaller items may be able to be captured, but the big dollar items, not even a chance.
That's kind of why I wanted to hear, like, we gotta think priorities. This is something we definitely need, the waste treatment plant. Little things would be improved in the whole park. I love that idea.
Fair enough. There's a second part of the question, I believe is directed at Sophia.
Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just gonna ask you to restate the question, please.
You're really focused on the mental health that you want to bring to a community, like services, which is amazing because we really need this at this time. We're starting to see the aftermath of the lockdowns when things like my Alcoholics Anonymous meeting was closed. When teenagers are speaking to counselor over a Zoom meeting versus sitting on the couch with them. We're seeing the aftermath of this. I love the introduction of more mental health services. I just want to ensure that they stay open if we ever do face our lockdown. One thing are businesses being locked down, but these mental health services need to stay open.
Sorry, can I just ask you to, again, just clarify the question to Sophia, if you would, please?
What she would be able to do to ensure that these mental health services, like my Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, stays open if we do face another lockdown.
I understand.
Whether that be dealing with the Guelph Mental Health Services to keep things open here in Shelburne.
I understand.
Other communities were able to keep these things open where we're not.
Sophia, I'm not sure that you're able to answer how something like that, you might be able to ensure something like that makes it stay open, but
I can just speak
please.
on my experience in regards to COVID.
Sure, by all means.
So what has been happening during COVID? What do the agencies try to do is partner with telehealth to provide Zoom meetings for people who are in crisis and also need support. So that's one of the things that we would actually stress.
Zoom meetings for people in crisis is no good. It really is not. When my teenage nephew needs help, he needs to be sitting on a couch with a counselor, not sitting in bed in his comfort zone on a Zoom meeting. He needs that in-person touch. We need to make sure that these services stay open.
And thank you very much for bringing that to my attention, because I think that these are some of the things that we want to hear. And this is what I need to take back to all our agencies that we have in Shelburne to say, okay, you know what, this is what we're hearing. So what are we going to do moving forward? So thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Yeah, Randy, did you have something to add?
So I want to talk about Jeremy's question about mental health. So I'm the board chair for Choices Youth Shelter. During the lockdown, we were offering all services to the youth, and every Thursday we opened up everything to anybody that wanted to come in. So any youth between the age of 16 to 24 is allowed to come to Choices Youth Shelter. That's something I put under my direction. The other thing that I've done is by November 1st, I'm hoping we finalize our new facility. We're opening up the first men's shelter in Dufferin County. Part of what I'm doing part of what I'm doing with this facility, and it's addressing a lot of the mental health issues. So essentially what's going to happen is we're going to be housing, we're going to start off around 6 individuals because that's what the funding is for that we have. The rest of it, like I'm hoping that by next year we're going to increase it with the county and we're going to be up to about 20 people, hopefully. What we're also doing with it is we're opening up all services that we're offering to the men, to everybody within the community. So we're taking a proactive approach to end homelessness. The same thing that we're doing to the youth, we're doing to the men. So all our AA meetings, any mental health addiction, you are able to come into the facility for free and use it any time. And if you can't make it there, we have a meeting time to come and pick you up.
Great to hear. Len?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Moderator. I want to commend you for an excellent job that you've done again. So I thank you for presenting that. I'll be here with you. I appreciate your comment about wanting to be fiscally responsible. And my question is this, to the incumbents of council, each and every one of you, I would like to know, we've heard that the transition from the Orangeville Police Service to the OPP cost in Orangeville cost Orangeville over $6 million. My question is to you, how much did the transition from the Shelburne Police Services to the OPP cost our taxpayers, and including the cost of payouts and legal costs and extra costs? Because this is important. If we're being fiscally responsible, your decision was made to get rid of the police, and that's a lot of the money that we have to pay as taxpayers. So what's your opinion? What's your comments, please, council?
I don't know if there's any member of council that might want to try and address that. I mean, at this point in time, I can tell you that the OPP transition is a 3-year transitionary period. So the costs are fixed for a 3-year period of time. There were certain payouts associated with making that transition. I can tell you that amount was somewhere around $1.1 million, I believe.
Is it all in?
It is to the best, Len, it is to the best of our knowledge all in, and in fact that number came in at about 50% of what the original cost estimates were expected to be. So I don't know yet, I'm not sure, I'm not aware that there are any other transitionary costs that we have experienced yet, nor is there any anticipation that we are going to experience any other transitionary costs until such time as we move to a billing model. And that won't happen until the end of the 3-year transitionary period.
Yeah, I understand that, but you still didn't answer the question of what you spent so far.
Well,
that's okay.
You know what? I'm not the guy running for council. The question wasn't posed to me, but I can share with you whatever knowledge I have. And I can tell you that the severance costs were about $1.1 million, or about 50% of what the original estimates were.
Plus what taxpayers pay. Yeah, that's right.
Well, I don't know, is there any?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Please do come on up. I don't know that the council can provide any other answer to that, or any member of the council could.
Hi, my name is Karen Lang, and I live at 239 Main Street East, and I've had the pleasure of working with the...
Yeah, you could just...
Okay, my mother always told me I spoke too loud, but I guess things have changed. But anyway, I've had the pleasure of getting to know some of the council members as part of the DEI committee, which was very, very successful this year. I was not impressed by Mr. Hall's comment because we did work very well. And you have to consider it was our first year, it was our infancy. So we accomplished a lot, we spent some money, but we did not overspend.
Sorry, the question is?
So there's really no comment. My question now is, it has nothing to do with DEI. That was just a comment because I felt a little insulted by Mr. Hall's comments about our.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Okay, so anyway, I'm going to move on to my question. As a resident of Main Street, the bypass is going to take a long time. I understand that, but the town has been working on this for many, many years. And so if the bypass is going to take maybe 10, 20 more years, whatever that might be, can they not do something to slow down the traffic? For instance, how long does it take to install? How long does it take?
I'm going to ask you to be specific, so...
I'm asking the question right now.
Okay, please do.
How long does it take to have a traffic light installed on Main Street in Shelburne? Because it is a highway.
I mean, I can tell you that would really be up to the Ministry of Transportation traffic studies, I believe.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking the council.
Yeah, I'm not sure that anybody, Shane, I'm not sure that council might.
So again, due to the fact that what you're talking about, Main Street, is controlled by the MTO, it has to be the MTO that we engage with in order to try to do that. Very similar to what took place most recently with the new development and the advanced green. It needs to be the MTO that comes forward. For them to do it, they have a set series of criteria that need to be met, and unless we meet those provincial regulated items, they will not install it.
So, as council members, you cannot approach the Ministry of Transport to make that request. I'm talking about the safety of the citizens of Shelburne. And you have an obligation as town councilors to provide safety.
Listen, I understand what your question is, and I think Mr. Hall
I
is
think it's
trying to
a
provide an answer.
by saying
You're welcome to ask questions.
They cannot do anything.
Okay, so I believe Shane is trying to answer the question to the best of his ability.
So the fact is, we are very limited on what we have control over. The fact is, as 7 members of council, we can certainly put something forward to the MTO to, again, do a study for them to assess whether they will agree or not agree. If it doesn't meet their criteria, then it is dead in the water and they just move forward. So, as I mentioned with regards to the advanced green, it is my belief that it was not the 7 members of council that put that advanced green in. When you talk about the advanced green, it really comes from the lobbying of the community. If the community gathers together and does the lobbying, the bigger voice, the bigger action. And 7 don't make the difference versus 10,000.
Next person in line. If you have more questions, you're welcome to hit the back of the line and ask another question. Thank you. Next in line, please.
I can try to respond to that.
Go ahead, please, Steve.
Because it is MTO is responsible for the highways. We can certainly understand why this is an emotional issue for folks, because safety is a big issue. MTO is responsible for the highways, no question about it. But I agree with the point that as council, we can still show some leadership in identifying areas of concern and either passing a motion or a resolution that staff send a letter to MTO. In fact, that's what we did with the left turn signal into the plaza. I brought a motion, it was seconded by, I believe, Councillor Benotto. That letter or information was sent to staff. Staff then contacted MTO and members of the community did as well. And now we have that in place, or it will be in place shortly. So there is a role for us to play. And then secondly, as we talk about the MTO, is leverage our relationship with our Deputy Premier, Sylvia Jones. It was her leverage that got us the left turn signal at 124 and 89. And it's that same leverage that we could use to get additional lighting that we may need in the town as well.
Thank you. I'll just ask that you.
I'll be brief, okay? The MTO is responsible for our highways, but they're not responsible for our side streets. And for 3 years, this community has been begging council for some sort of traffic calming along Greenwood, along Phil Park Lane. Hornings Mills, the small hamlet of Hornings Mills, has more traffic calming devices in their community than we do. And at the end of the day, I mean, if you want to talk about priorities, you know, we're making things look busy, but, you know, are we really looking after the safety of the community? And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, appreciate the comments. Listen, I'm going to respect the people that are standing in line, if that's okay with you, so please.
Hi, my name's Ann Crowder. I live at 509 Simon Court. 4 years ago, I stood here and begged with town council to do something about housing for seniors, or as I call it, mid-rise condos, so that you're putting up big houses, or letting the developers put up big houses, and we're just falling through the grades. So my question is to Steve Anderson and Shane Hall, you're both running for deputy. Do you have any plans at all? Because I don't think the last council did a damn thing. And I'm just curious, what are you gonna do about it?
Steve, Shane,
Yeah, and thank you for the question. And you'll remember it wasn't too long ago that you and I spoke outside of an ice cream shop where you posed that question to me. And I was actually honored to tell you that we already taken steps to do that. It was a shame, I must say. I was invited to, we've heard Dundalk already today, to a ribbon cutting ceremony for the seniors apartment in Dundalk. And what was sad about it was that there were a number of residents from Shelburne waiting to get into that seniors apartment. And so I agree with you. We need to do something here in Shelburne. So I spoke to that same developer and said, hey, listen, I know that you have land here from the west side of the community. We need a seniors apartment here. Advocated with Councilor Walter Benotto to get him to agree to do that. He's already submitted his application to town council. That is being processed as we speak. The issue though, which was raised earlier, is servicing capacity and allocation. And so until we upgrade our sewer plant, that's going to be on pause, but there are steps and action has been taken to address that need.
Can I ask, like, roughly how many units you are looking at when you talk, you know, you're putting a little plan in place? Is it
Sure, so
when is it substantial?
So, sorry. What he's recommending is 93 units. My thought process is this, and the argument may be whether is that going to be affordable for seniors. It may not be for all, but my suggestion with him would be is have at least a number of your units maybe at market rate, and then have some that may be subsidized so that you could have a diversification of seniors who could afford to live in those apartments.
Well, if you're gonna let the town grow, you better grow it in the right direction for some of us. Or, we're gonna have to move out of town we know and love and grew up in.
Yeah, no, I totally respect that, and certainly we don't want to do that. And I must say, I don't want to hog it. I know that Councillor Hall, but certainly Councillor Benotto will tell you that we've been on our developers when they come here to build housing that is appropriate for seniors, like bungalows, etc. So we've been pushing very hard. Yes, it hasn't materialized, but the effort is there.
Shane.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. With regards to the current. As he's mentioned, we've already looked at some of the things for that next phase of growth. The other area of growth is really phase 2 in Field Gate. So that does have a aspect that's commercial related, but then there is also above store living that is already in the plans. However, with that, it still comes down to servicing capacity.
Yes,
And for us to do that expansion, because we have met the build out. So the next phase is us going through our overall master plans with the county to make that change.
I just hope that when you're sitting across the room from the builder, that you play your trump card for the town, for the housing, for all the people in the town.
Absolutely, and that's why, as far as that community growth, it doesn't only put residential away from industrial, but it also looks at where that style of living needs to come from.
Great question, thanks for the question.
So I want to commend Steve Anderson for your social media presence. You're at every ribbon cutting, you're on social media all the time. We've heard you're late to very many meetings. I have personally researched that in the last 3 years, you've missed 25% of council meetings and committees that you're on. And with a weighted vote, attendance is very important. So I want to ask you, what is your true commitment to being on council? I mean, you know, being late, not being at meetings, how do you represent the community?
Steve, you're welcome to, I thought that you had earlier addressed that. I'm personally not sure that you might add any more to it unless you feel that you Okay.
So nothing? Okay, so can I ask, do I need to go back the line or can I ask?
No, shoot.
Okay, so you are on social media, and I did see that you had announced that you had met with a couple ministries, and you were going to be able to get us an indoor pool and recreation center. I don't even care the $30 million cost because I truly don't believe any ministry committed that. What is the operating cost to all the municipalities of what a $30 million, 10, 20, 30, what you put on your Facebook, what would that operating cost be every year to run a facility like that?
Steve, I have no idea what maybe you're referring to on your Facebook, but you might have knowledge of it, so.
I think what she's referring to is the fact that when I spoke about recreation, I talked about the opportunities.
Not tonight, you posted.
No, I know, that's what I'm referring to. So what I talked about is different ways that we could take the burden off of the tax base in supporting a development like that. So one of the things I talked about was corporate sponsorship. You could bring in the YMCA to offset the operating costs. You heard Walter Benotto talk about that already. It's always cheaper to have the YMCA run these programs.
That's how. But what would the cost be?
Well,
that's my question. What would the operating cost be?
Well, that's very difficult for me to answer. We haven't even
Thank you.
We haven't even constructed the building. So how can I know what the operating cost would be? Okay.
I don't know if there's anything further you might add, Steve, to be honest with you.
All right.
My name's Sean. I'm 359 Stewart Street. I'm going to read this. This is from a family member in the school board. Ask him if he doesn't feel, meaning Steve Anderson, I'm sorry.
I'll just stay here.
I'm sorry. Ask him if he does not feel that only giving awards to the ethnic kids in the community is creating a divide in the community. Second part, ask him why he is so vocal about removing the resources officer in the school, and does he not see the impact that he has created?
Steve, just for my own clarity purposes, I'm not aware that you suggested anything about removing resource officers in the school.
I've never said that publicly on my social media or to anybody. And I think you were here earlier. I said that the decision to actually remove the police was throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There was a more nuanced approach, and now the schools start to see the impacts of that. So that would sort of contradict what I said earlier. So I did not say that, so you could please pass that on. Back to your first point about, I'm shocked actually.
This is from a 9-year-old kid in my school.
That's fine. And so let me address that for everybody to hear. If you have been on my social media, you would have noticed that the awards that I've given out are actually given out and chosen by the school. The school chooses the student, not me. They choose who the school chooses who qualifies for the award. I simply go there and hand them the award. But let's talk about something that I do have choice over, which is the Community Excellence Award. And so if you see my track record of the Community Excellence Award, this is where now I have the opportunity to nominate and have council support that nomination, give up the award. And if you've looked at that, you would have seen, let me just answer your question. If you looked at that, you would have seen that there are a diverse group of individuals, white, black, brown, who have received that award that I have nominated them for and that council supported. So please pass that on to the 9-year-old child. I'm not sure where they got that information from. I'm not blaming the child.
This is what the kids see. This is what the kids see. Not what the adults see. The kids see.
I'm not sure how.
And they're the ones who are going to be running this town later.
Okay. All right, Judge. I thank you for your comment. That's fine.
Yeah.
Now you talk about your Facebook and how if I would have saw on Facebook this or that. All I see on Facebook is certain people out there going, pat me on the back.
I'm going to cut it off there, but thanks very much. Next.
Okay, so I've heard about a couple of important priorities, the sewage plant and all of that.
I can sit down?
Yes, you can. But you may need to come back up. My last question is directed at the two deputy mayoral candidates. I think that there is a need for a 24-hour healthcare facility in the town of Shelburne, and I would like to know what the two of you have planned to make that a reality.
And I thank you for your question, and that was part of my opening remarks when I had the 3 minutes. One of the things that I want to see, there's no question that when the hospital disappeared in Shelburne, so did many of the services and the equipment that we need to service our growing community. So that's why over the years I've been working with the local doctors in Headwaters, first and foremost, to get our X-ray and ultrasound machines right back here in Shelburne so that we're not languishing in Headwaters or Brampton or somewhere else waiting for results. Number two, when it comes to the services clinic, I've already started the conversation with some of our local physician team here in Shelburne, finding out whether or not having an after-hour or what was called rapid hour clinic is possible. So I don't show up to the podium or show up to your door with a wish list without finding out whether or not that's possible. They have assured me that this after-hours clinic is possible, and I think that would go a long way in servicing our community, because what I've been hearing door to door is a number of people who are finding it difficult to get a family doctor here, who have to travel to Brampton or Toronto or somewhere else just to get service, and we could put an end to that by getting that after-hours clinic right here in Shelburne.
Shane, what do you add to that?
Again, prior to being able to provide an after-hours clinic, we have to get the doctors here. We're already at a shortage of doctors, the population is growing, and we still need more. So again, we need to continue our lobbying efforts to attract more physicians to our area so that we can cover all of those. The deputy is very clear with regards to, we all have that same feeling of after-hour clinics, no different than the bypass. We clearly understand the need, now we have to go out and lobby to get what we want.
Thanks very much.
Hello, everyone. Good luck with your campaign, by the way. I heard a lot of talk about the indoor pool and bypass, taxes, and everything that's included within that. But what are some realistic, like you guys all mentioned to listen to the people, what are one or two realistic things that you guys can implement? Just, I know you can't make everyone happy, right? Yeah.
Sorry.
What would you suggest would be like maybe in the next 6 months, well, maybe long term, like a year? for now? What would you, yeah, not quick fixes, but.
No, fixes, quick wins.
Quick wins?
Yeah.
What are the quick wins? Or what do they see as quick
Sure,
wins?
and that's what they call them.
Yeah, I don't know. Len, you're.
Hey, Glenn, look at that. Hey.
Thanks for the question. I think within the first year, it would be possible to divert that $300 that is thrown to the storefronts as a facade and redirect it to getting rid of the steps and putting in either a ground ramp or a removable ramp. Back in July, I spoke with Mayor Mills and we had a at-length conversation about costing for that. I'm flattered that council has borrowed my homework to an extent, but that's something we can do very quickly. There should be no excuse for any person with a disability not to be able to get into a store or a restaurant in this community.
And I completely agree, because I have a family member that is in a wheelchair, so being able to access storefronts is important. Now, I would like either one of the mayors to maybe even answer potential prospective mayors, maybe you can suggest what are your goals, like, that are more realistic,
Sorry, other deputy mayors, what are their goals?
Yeah, like, I know everything's really costly and, like I said, you can't make everyone happy, but what's a realistic goal based off of what you heard from the people?
So their broad vision really is what you're looking for?
Right. Not a promise, something that can just be realistically done within the next 6 months or a year, for either one of you guys.
Yeah, but I'm gonna ask you to be as brief as you can about a broad vision for the town of Shelburne. I think that's what the question is that you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Either
broad, and not broad, realistic. There's realistic.
Well, I'm hoping that anything that they might suggest is realistic.
Hey, there's a
Or
bypass.
if not, we've got the wrong guys up on stage.
There's talk about
Either or.
bypass here. You guys said it here, so.
I mean, I think many of the things that we're talking about are realistic. What we're talking about is projection and a forecast as to how long it's going to take. So, with respect to items on recreation, I think we've already implemented a number of things already with respect to our ribbon cutting ceremony at KTH Park for our tennis court, our splash pad, for example, that I know a number of families with young children are waiting to see. So that will be constructed, I believe, later on this month and be ready by next spring.
And maybe youth groups and mental health.
Youth groups, there's no question that additional work needs to be done, but that's why it's important to have a relationship with community partners. As you say, listening to the community and then figuring out ways that we can make this happen.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Because I know you guys mentioned the high school youth groups and having things for activities for them would probably help that lingering cloud, so to speak.
Appreciate the comments. We'll Shane to reply.
So again, looking at some of the quick wins, maybe focusing on Parks and Rec. This year we were already able to do the dog park. We did, again, the tennis and pickleball courts. We've done, again, the park downtown. The next items really are probably some level of improvement or expansion of the trail systems. Again, because those are a cheaper option for us at this point in time while we look at the monies that we have.
Right, and you still make a couple people happy.
Thanks very much for the questions.
My first name is Jeff. I live on Joseph Street here in the town of Shelburne. My question is basically to the existing council members. I've been involved in the last 30 years of my life with development in a nearby municipality. And I looked at intersection of Jibway and Highway 89. I would be involved with traffic studies, with the MTO, with the region appeal, and with the town with which I work. That advanced green that is required would have been paid for by the developer when that intersection was first opened up. The very first time I went in there, I was amazed at the traffic coming along and the lack of an advanced green. Who is going to pay for that change to that signal? It's not going to be cheap. There's going to be a lot more infrastructure required, more computer work done in the gray box, and that's going to be a very costly venture. Who is going to pay for it? My second question is, or maybe it's an observation, on the Jibway, there is a concrete island separating the inbound traffic from the outbound traffic. There needs to be warning signs on that to warn the public or the traveling people that there's a hazard, because you're not gonna see that in a snowstorm if you're making a left turn from 89 into a Jibway. So whoever's gonna contact MTO to get that installed, or the developer to get that installed. That's a developer cost.
Fair enough. Walter, any comment?
Okay, on the advanced screen, it's the developer that's gonna pay for it.
100%?
100%. It's a part of his,
obligation.
And
it should have been in by now, because it's already dangerous.
Yes.
I've seen it, two
Yes.
calls already.
Yes, but MTO also are the ones that have to authorize it to go in. While the developer will pay for it, the MTO is the one that have to authorize it. So when our MTO has authorized it, the developer will pay for it. As far as the Jibway, that is an unassumed road yet, believe it or not, and the developer is still responsible for that road. So if there's any obstructions or problems on that road, that's up to whoever's in council at the next term to make sure.
Well, all I can say to that, sir, is that if I was inspecting a development like that, the municipality I worked in, that intersection would not have been opened until all the warning signs were installed.
So-
It's a safety issue, and it needs to be addressed immediately.
Yeah. Appreciate the concerns, and it is being addressed, Walter, is what I understand, and it's costing more by the developer. Thank you very much for the question. Next, yeah.
Again, with regards to the intersection and the advanced green, it was always in the overall plans. Again, the MTO did not have their criteria met initially, and that's why it had to go further. Again, that advanced green was also supposed to be part of the actual residential population that was to be in that area, which isn't there at this point. Remember, they've only assumed the commercial aspects, and as such, there were definitely misses, and those misses are again through from the MTO side.
Thanks, Shane. Please.
My name is Fegan, and I live at 132 Fleming Way. My question's for Randy. Randy, on your pamphlet, you say, "Let my actions speak louder than my words." Often this can have both a positive and negative meaning. So how do you plan to enact those if elected to council?
So I'm going to use what I'm currently doing right now and my past track record. I moved to Shelburne approximately 10 years ago when I was looking for ways to volunteer with the community. I found firefighting. I joined as a volunteer firefighter within the community, and I'm also a professional firefighter in the city of Brampton. In terms of actions speak louder than words, everything that I've ever said I was going to do, I've always done. I was actually, when I took over as the board chair for Choices Youth Shelter, the organization was failing, and it was in a bad financial situation. And Choices was on the verge of actually shutting down. We had 3 facilities. What I ended up doing was selling one, leveraging the money to the others, and then kind of just went back to the community, started doing a lot of fundraising, reorganized the structure, and started working with various different businesses when the community could give us money. When it came to the men's shelter, I actually went to Orangeville Council and Shelburne Council. I went to Shelburne Council for $5,000, which was denied, and I went to Orangeville Council for $300,000, which was denied. Even though everybody on social media was talking about, we need to do something for the men, which there is absolutely nothing done for men's homelessness or even men at risk within Dufferin County. It is the only pocket that is never serviced. I still remember at Orangeville Council meeting.
Sorry, I was going to ask you about that.
Sorry, so I'll just elaborate. I went back after they denied me the money. Within 1 month, I raised $1.5 million on my own through private funding. That's what's bringing me. That's my actions speaking out of my words.
Thank you.
And again, I appreciate the fact that we're running past what the suggested time was, but I trust that you still enjoy and appreciate the conversation that's ongoing. Fair enough.
I would just like to add to that, I just texted Wade. He said free drinks at the Legion till 2 a.m. So we're good. And this isn't a question. I would just like to recognize a mom. I would just like to recognize a mom in town who stood up here tonight and was very passionate about traffic in town. Her daughter suffered life-altering injuries. And, you know, this isn't something that we can just, you know, we'll talk to somebody and somebody, but and I get that it's a long-term solution, but as a mom, I feel for you.
Okay, I have one last question, and this one is for Lindsay. This is a conversation we've had on social media.
I don't mean to move you out of order. I know that you've been up several times. There's a gentleman behind you. Is this your first time up?
Sure.
May I?
Yeah.
Do you mind just switching?
No.
Just if you don't mind?
No, I don't mind.
Good evening, my name is James Hodder, and I live on William Street in Shelburne. Public health is a very important issue for me, and I feel that it is important for council to show leadership with regard to public health. So if I may ask for a show of hands, who are the anti-vaxxers who are running for council? Please.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I don't think that belongs in any part of tonight's proceeding. Whatever it may be, I don't think that whether somebody's vaccinated or not vaccinated is any bearing on whether or what their candidate or what their candidacy is. I think that's a matter of personal opinion. So next again.
Hey, Chris Peterson, 214 Main Street East, Shelburne.
Chris, I'm glad you're here, bud.
Thanks. So, yeah, this is just a positive one. You know, this is an amazing town, amazing community. Anybody feel like talking about their ideas for more tourism, more events, something like that? Who's got ideas on that subject? Bring more people to town, introduce them to Shelburne. Anyway.
Yeah, Kyle.
I think I made it part of what I said originally in the beginning. I know that Collingwood did it by hiring a person, partially on commission, partially on salary. The commission was, the more people you bring into town, the more commission you get, and more events. That's how they got paid, by the more events they brought. They brought the Elvis event to Collingwood. We need somebody that's got that kind of spark in council that wants to bring the events and the tourism to town. We have a lot in the town that could be tourism. The historical aspect, all the trails that we have in the town that people don't know anything about, and the artistry that's in the town, and now with the revitalization of Jack Downey Park, there is places and things for people to stop rather than just driving through the town. One of the problems we have though is the amount of truck traffic we have going down. That is what hurts us in the way of tourism. But we do have other things that we can offer people, and we just have to make it public and known.
Fair enough. Kyle, you got something to add?
So 4 years ago, I first came on council, and one of the things that I wanted to do getting in at that point in time was to work with connections that I have that are in the music industry. It takes a long time to organize the event that I'm planning on doing. It's going to take me more time to finance it, but I want to work with any organization who is willing to work with me, bring in some big name bands, fill Fiddle Park, and I mean fill Fiddle Park. I've already talked to Shane Hall. He's already offered that if we can accomplish the event that I want to hold, and we hold it on the correct day when KTH is not operating, he's kindly offered that we can use their parking lots so that we can have standing room only in the Fiddle Park. Having a big concert that's paid for entrance, advertised correctly through Chorus Radio or other radio stations, that's going to bring people far and wide to see a band they want to see. That's one way that we can push over.
So look, thank you very much. I'm going to cap it there. I respect the fact, I know you've been up a number of times, but I'm going to respect the audience time, and the commitment that I made to these candidates to allow them a couple of minutes just as closing remarks. So from that standpoint, unless you have, is it a quick question, sir?
Well, yeah, my question is with regards to the dog park that we have, which I think is a great initiative for the dogs. However, it was reported in the papers that the cost of it is grand. And I did not see what was built there for 92 grand. Me and Lindsay had a conversation. She came back and she said that the actual cost is 47 grand. I would like to know how they intend to spend the additional 45.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, as perhaps you do, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your question. So basically the amount that you mentioned was the budgeted amount. So that was what there was the potential to spend up to. We didn't come anywhere close to that. We are somewhere around the $41,000 to $47,000 range. We are still in sort of phase one of the dog park. We've already done some testing for water and things of that nature. So phase two, you know, potentially even a phase three, will offer some more shelter, some more seating, and the opportunity for water. Because as you know, with dogs running around in the middle of the summer, heat exhaustion is quite possible. So we want to try to avoid that by adding in some of those amenities that dog parks are readily do support. Another option is some apparatuses that can help with activities such as similar to pole weaving, or they call it the A-frame. So just almost like a park, you know, as if your children would be playing, but for your dogs. So yeah, so that was maybe miscommunicated or potentially misreported, but that was just a budget number of what we could potentially spend, but we don't anticipate being anywhere near that.
Appreciate the insight. I know that the dog park was a fairly significant community request for a lot of years, so we're glad to see that project come through. So I'm going to just ask that you all provide some closing remarks, if you will. I'm going to work in reverse order from earlier. So Len, you were last, you're at first, and I'm going to ask you all to do your best to keep the cap to about a minute and a half. I realize I said too. I'm just going to say do your best to keep it capped.
I will be brief. First of all, I want to thank Jeff McLean and Mike Zackley and Greg Holmes for hosting this event. I want to thank you for coming out to this event. I truly believe that this election is a referendum on what the current council has done to this community and not what it has done for this community. This community in 2035 will be 16,000 people. There have been no discussions about the changeover to electric vehicles, green platforms, etc. There is no other candidate on this stage who will represent this community with a level of integrity, passion, commitment, and community, nor have a long-term vision for this community than me. This is why I'm asking for your vote in this election, and let's make Shelburne a better place for everyone to live. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Len. Vincent?
Thank you very much, and thanks to all the organizers and everyone who's gathered here tonight. I want to also, I can't resist that lady that came up and she was making a presentation, and I felt it, the way she was, the response that she got to me was not satisfactory. Yes, it might be an MTO situation, but she was not asking about MTO. She was asking about council's responsibility and their involvement. Having to move on from that point, also, I haven't heard much about seniors and veterans tonight. And Shelburne has a very large population of seniors, and we cannot just ignore them and treat them as if they are not significantly important. I like to say, if the seniors had not preserved Shelburne, we who have just moved into Shelburne 15, 10, whatever years, we would have no Shelburne to call our home today. So I want to tip my hat and I want to support seniors. We have a farming industry also that I haven't heard anyone address tonight, and to attract young farmers and to keep our farming industry up and running. And in closing, also, we have, Shelburne is a multicultural community and growing. We need to be able to facilitate and accommodate various faith groups in the area so they can establish place of worship, etc. And I'm just here, I'm just willing to throw my hand in and to be a part of the growing development of our community. Thank you very much. Vote for Sterling when you vote.
Lindsay?
So I just wanted to once again say thank you very much for everyone for coming tonight. And you know, as I stated in my opening speech, that every one of us sitting here has their own unique characteristics and attributes that they will bring to council. And so I hope you just, you know, do your research and make your vote count. And you've got a hard decision. And you know, just do your best to understand what we bring to the table. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I wanted to address some of the things that were discussed earlier. There was a lot of conversation about the cost of our wastewater system or upgrades that need to take place that will take probably 3 to 4 years to take place. Council undertook a review of our development charges, and I can tell you right now, to give you an example, for each individual home built in the future, 40% of that development charge is allocated towards wastewater. So that means that taxpayers aren't going to be paying for that, but instead developers. Most of that cost will be paid over time, and any loans that we get will be paid for through those charges. So I wanted to make that very clear tonight. Another suggestion or conversation that related to seniors housing. Again, now that we've got to the point where we're now at capacity, we have to undergo another official plan review. This is where we, and I have a problem with my throat tonight. This is where we have the ability to determine various land use designations, for example, for seniors, to say, this area over here will be high density residential. Then that means that individual parcel of land would be condos, not single family homes. So in doing that, we will invite the public to be involved in a conversation, but that entire area in the West End is going to be expanded growth, and there will be a lot of different types of development that, in addition to that,
I'm going to ask that you attempt to wrap up, please. Thank you.
Commercial and industrial developed designations will also be there to help provide us with the land that we need for more of that. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Randy, over to you. Final remarks.
So I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I do want to respect everyone's time. It is getting late. For myself, I just want to build on the successes that Shelburne's had. The last 4 years has been very difficult. I'll tell you, I was contemplating to run last year or last term, and then I pulled out last minute, just because I had a lot on my plate with the shelter and a lot going on with the fire department and whatnot. I want to build on the successes that the town has had in the last 4 years, and I want to step into the light. I'm the guy that's always working in the background, the firefighter, running the homeless shelters, doing a lot with the youth, running a lot of the different community organizations within the community. I just looking to have a say, looking to have a voice. Let my actions speak louder than words. I don't want to waste any time. Have a great night.
All I want to say is I want to thank Mike, and I want to thank Jeff, along with everyone else that's worked here tonight, and the Legion itself for also hosting us here. Now, I have 23 years of experience that I can put on when we have hard years ahead of us with budgets that are going to be very difficult. And with that experience, being on council and having had to make those hard decisions, past, present, and making the decisions that I feel are right for the citizens of Shelburne when I make them, because I make them with the intent of knowing that the citizens of Shelburne are my first priority, have been my first priority for 23 years. So that's why, and the only reason I'm running again, because I'm wanting to do what is best for the citizens of Shelburne. So that's why I'm asking for your support once more to put me on council. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Once again, I'd like to thank Jeff and Mike for putting this evening together, and the Legion for allowing us to use your space once more. As a council these last 4 years, we've made major strides in planning for our future, planning for sustainability, and providing many reserves to keep our balance sheet healthy. All the while, we provided many infrastructure and recreational improvements, such as transit, the new tennis courts, the new water tower, the improvements to Well 3, just to name a few. These improvements, while necessary, take a careful eye to ensure we aren't overspending and can sustain the necessary growth to support our growing population. A lot of work has gone in to get us where we are today, but we've only just begun. I'd like to continue to work for you, the town of Shelburne, not only to finish many of these projects we've already begun, but to also bring about new ideas for the betterment of our town. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for done already.
It was those guys.
Again, thank you very much. Again, I'm new at this, but I've heard a lot of concerns, and budgets are obviously a huge thing, keeping things under proper spending. You know, that's water, wastewater, it's going, so that's a good thing for this Shelburne. So, but anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dan?
I've heard what's been said tonight. I've heard your concerns. The conversation doesn't stop here. If you wish to talk to me one-on-one, you can. Call or text me, 705-333-2482. All of you probably already have my number anyways. I've heard from many of you when I've been out walking around that I should run again. So I must have done a good job as councillor in the 2014 term. I live in this town, my kids go to school in this town. This is our home. I want to make it a safe and affordable town for everybody to live in. Vote on October 24th for Dan Sample as councillor. And finally, I really want to thank all you coming out tonight and everyone else up here with me, because we're in this together. Thank you.
Sophia?
Thank you everyone for coming out. Mark, for being a mediator, and for all the questions that was brought forward. Stepping out on faith. This is what this journey is to me running for council. I am passionate about bringing services to others, and if elected, I will continue the role to do the same, just as I do in my career, with passion, along with the other elected members. So let's move forward together in making Shelburne the town of the envy of all the other towns, and vote for me, Sophia, on election day, October the 24th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sophia.
Thank you once again for taking the time to be with us tonight. I have met many of you at your doors, as some of you in your homes, to have critical conversations about the direction of Shelburne and how we can build our Shelburne together. Many of you have shared your thoughts and ideas around enhanced recreational facilities, and we've heard tonight some of the challenges and impacts of looking at some of those opportunities. We've heard the need for more job opportunities, and again tonight we've heard some of the challenges with the lack of space to bring in another KTH type facility in our community. We've heard affordability and fiscal responsibility. What I can tell you is that I am committed to doing the work, to work with council and staff to research the different opportunities that may be available to us so that we can leverage. There are many other concerns and ideas that were raised at the doors, and I am committed to raising each item and working together with staff so that your concerns, your ideas are considered, they are prioritized, and they are addressed. This is our Shelburne, and it is up to us to build and grow our Shelburne to sustain us for the future. I have a track record of doing things right here in Shelburne, and I am running because, like you, I am proud to be part of this community, and I want to ensure that we plan our future together to stimulate our economy, to maintain a prosperous community, and at the same time preserve the charm of our Shelburne community. On October 24th, let's build our Shelburne together by voting Alethia O'Hara-Stephenson as your next Shelburne councillor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And, I think Steve is first, so he'll be last this evening, so Shane.
So again, I want to reiterate my appreciation to be able to be here tonight. Again, sending out my thanks to the Shelburne Legion, Jeff, as well as Mike. Although the growth of Shelburne is evident, we cannot do so without showing fiscal restraint. It is unrealistic to promise a reduced residential tax burden at the same time as promising those high-dollar investments without a defined strategy. Shelburne is not immune to the financial world of today. We need to consider such things as the interest rates, the inflationary costs, the supply chain challenges, so we do not reach that point where we're stretching our borrowing limits to the maximum. Any plan to improve Shelburne needs to be well thought out and within our financial means. Promising the world with no real idea of how to pay for it is a losing proposition for everyone. A proper functioning municipal government addresses the concerns that they can control, this being at the town level. While it is beneficial to have those good, solid relationships with upper tier, provincial and federal partners, we need to again stay focused on what we can control within Shelburne. Lobbying as a community is much more effective than lobbying as an individual, and we as a community can achieve much. The real work of the deputy mayor takes place during committee meetings, council meetings, and third-party interaction. This is truly where the work is done. That means being present, on time, and prepared. I have demonstrated these traits as a member of council, and with your support, I'll bring these traits to the role of the deputy mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve will close with you.
I also want to thank all of you for your attendance this evening and for staying late and hearing from each and every one of us. Of course, the organizers for putting this on. You know, listening to some of the candidates who are vying for the position, you would think that Shelburne is a doom and gloom and somehow we failed the community. And I would say far from it. When I go door to door and I hear from folks, they are very proud of what we've been able to accomplish as a small town, even with the fiscal restraints. And the reason why we've been able to accomplish these things is because we have been prudent. And I want to thank our staff for keeping us in line and making sure that we have reserves, we are accessing grants, and we're leveraging our relationships to get things done. Because even though, yes, we need to be fiscally responsible, we still have needs that we have to address as a growing community. It's not enough to say we're going to turn off the pipes and let our seniors fall to the wayside, let our children continue to go spray paint parks and break into cars. because they have no activities to do. So yes, we must be fiscally responsible, but yet we must still have a vision and a track record to get things done. And I submit to you that I have that track record. And because I have that track record, that is why many of you elected me to become your deputy mayor. And with your continued support, I will continue to get the job done.
Thank you very much, Steve. That from our perspective, again, special thanks to all of you for attending this evening. It's greatly appreciated, and special thanks to everyone in attendance this evening for coming out and staying a little bit longer than expected. But I hope that the conversation tonight was what you expected and gave you far more insight into those that are, vying for a position on council moving forward, both as a councillor and or as a deputy mayor. So if it served that purpose, that was the only intent. And to that end, I wish you all a good evening.
Don't forget about the chair. Don't forget about the chair.